castigo, es la violencia que ya ves, es femicidio, impunidad para el asesino, es la desaparición, es la violación, y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo vestía, y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo vestía, y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo decía, y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo decía, y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo decía, y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo decía, y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo vestía, ni loca, la culpa c'est pas moi, ni mes femmes, ni loca, y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo decía, y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo decía, el violador eres tú. Son los pacos. El Estado. El presidente. El Estado opresor es un macho violador. El Estado opresor es un macho violador. El Estado opresor es un macho violador. El violador es tú.
I would like to welcome you to Halton's 30th annual Take Back the Night. Before we begin today, it is important to acknowledge and honor the land we are on and the Indigenous peoples who this land belongs to. We are gathered on the treaty lands of the Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Belt Covenant. This treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee people binds them together to share the territory and to protect the land. Saevil of Halton's offices occupy land within this territory, and we acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the First Nation for being stewards of this traditional territory. As a sexual assault center, we recognize that due to colonization, Indigenous women and girls are disproportionately affected by gender-based colonial violence. We acknowledge the ongoing effects of colonization and the ways colonialism continues to affect Indigenous folks today. These ongoing effects create harm to Indigenous peoples and communities, and we recognize the importance of reconciliation. Today may bring up various emotions. I encourage everyone to take care of themselves, and if at any point in time today you need to take a break from the screen, we welcome you to do so. Additionally, we will be recording this event, so if there's anyone who wishes not to be involved on screen, we encourage you to turn off your video. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Tonight, we would like to acknowledge the life and death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Justice Bader Ginsburg served as the second woman and first Jewish woman to be appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. She has been praised as the feminist trailblazer for women, members of the LGBTQ+, and BIPOC folks. Some of Justice Ginsburg's achievements include helping women gain the right to sign a mortgage without a man, the right to have a job without gender-based discrimination, and the right for women to have kids and work. Justice Ginsburg fought for abortion rights, for the LGBTQ+ community, and to be decriminalized for their sexuality, and advocated for equal rights for people of all races. Let her memory be a revolution. Thank you, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for being a fierce proponent for marginalized people's rights and dignity. Rest in power. As you were joining us this evening, we played for you Un Violador En Tu Camino, or A Rapist is in Your Path. This video demonstrates the 2019 Chilean women's protest against gender-based violence and victim blaming through dance and rallying cries. The act of solidarity and resistance spotlights the injustice women face in the hands of patriarchy. This movement spread across Europe, Latin America, and North America, fueling similar protests on sexual and domestic violence against women and trans folks. These chants illustrate the realities of women's experiences today under the oppressive systems of law enforcement, government, and leadership across the world. At the end of this song, protesters shout, "The rapist is you." This is a powerful statement meant to draw awareness around the high prevalence of sexual violence and assault, and oppression towards women and trans folks in society. Why are we here? Take Back the Night is an annual international event which has taken place since the 1970s. This event allows women, children, and trans folks to publicly voice their feelings about being free from gender-based violence. The word night was originally meant to be taken literally to express the fear that many women feel during the night, but has since changed to symbolize the fear of violence in general. While the march began as a way to protest the violence that women experience while walking in public at night, the purpose of these marches has evolved to bring awareness to breaking the silence of sexual violence. Since the onset of Me Too in 2006 by founder Tarana Burke and the beginning of the Time's Up movement in 2018, the call to end sexual violence and harassment has been pushing forward into the 21st century. 2020 has been a challenging year for most folks with the global rise of the COVID-19 pandemic. This year has also demonstrated that social movements such as Take Back the Night are important and necessary as we push for a new normal with no violence. Tonight, we gather virtually to demonstrate our solidarity and commitment to ending sexual violence in Halton. Furthermore, we want to also join in solidarity with other grassroots movements that have been pushing for racial justice and gender equality. They are Black Lives Matter, the LGBTQ+, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women in Two-Spirit, Truth and Reconciliation. The only strength we have is in solidarity. Over the course of this evening, we will be sharing with you the importance of Take Back the Night and what this event means to those in our community. Specifically, we have asked leaders in our community to share with you the importance of breaking the silence of sexual violence, how we can support and uplift marginalized communities, and demonstrate resiliency through these times. Following our speakers, we will be sharing a candlelight vigil at the end of the evening. Feel free to light a candle in your own space or share a moment of silence for communal solidarity. It is with great honor that I introduce to you our first montage of speakers. Bev LeFrancois, one of Saevil's first founding members and former executive director, Councillor Sameera Ali with the town of Milton, and Ruth Chun from our board of directors.
Hi everybody, my name's Bev LeFrancois, and I'm so happy that Saevil is taking time to have a Take Back the Night in spite of COVID. And I was the first executive director of Saevil, and that was in 1989. So I'm here for a little bit of history. And thank you to the women at Saevil who have prepared this in spite of COVID. The first Take Back the Night walk in Halton took place at Coronation Park in Oakville 30 years ago. And this was 9 months after the Montreal Massacre, where 14 young women were struck down, were separated from the men in their class, and they were shot, they were killed. He called them feminists. He didn't like feminists. He didn't think that they should be taking a role as an engineer in our society. That was a man's role. And so he killed them. And ironically, that was the same night that WHAM, Women of Halton Action Movement, was meeting for their regular monthly meeting. They stood in a circle, holding candles, thinking about the 14 women who had been killed, and they were called feminists. Little circles like that were repeated all over Canada. Women were afraid that night, really afraid, and they were in great sorrow for the women who had been killed. In 1991, then, 5,000 people attended our second Take Back the Night in an outpour of anger and grief because numerous young women and girls had been savagely raped, tortured, and murdered. One of these women was called Nina de Villiers. She was a 19-year-old student at McMaster University. Nina was a member of a group that sang, "Who is going to break the silence? Who is going to fight the fight, stand up and be counted, and give us back the night?" And she was killed. For 30 years, along with other groups, Saevil has continued to mark September with Take Back the Night. We need to have a time to show our sorrow, our anger, and our determination to stop violence against women. So this is a night, a time to be counted and to stand in solidarity with all those that have been hurt and are suffering. And they will walk together as women, and they will not be afraid. Today, Take Back Nights in Halton are more representative of our diverse community. White women are addressing their privilege and being informed by Indigenous women, by Black women, and by women of color. If white women are afraid to walk alone at night, imagine the fear of others. You see, violence against women is a major issue in women's lives. And it's a major issue in the women's revolution. Our revolution is slow and it is hard work. We have never used guns, and we will never stop until the concerns of the women who face the worst discrimination are addressed. We have much work to do. Making the streets safe is not about more guns, military, or bigger police budgets. We cannot look at violence in isolation. We will address the root causes of misogyny, of poverty, of racism. And we will take back the night. Once again, I will repeat Nina's words. Who is going to break the silence? Who is going to fight the fight? Stand up and be counted, and give us back our night.
Hi, my name is Sameera Ali. I'm a counselor in the town of Milton. Thank you, Saevil of Halton, for reaching out to me and giving me the opportunity to record this important message about sexual violence against women. And of course, we work hard to make sure there is no violence against women, especially sexual violence, just because they are women. And B, most importantly, it means for me to advocate as hard as we can to change the narrative surrounding this issue, so that women are comfortable in coming out and sharing their stories with the confidence that nobody's going to judge them, and then the environment is conducive to these women to be able to speak truth to power. That is what it means to me. Resilience to me looks like not stopping our advocacy for this important issue of sexual violence against women, no matter how hard the circumstances are. And a good example of this is the Take Back the Night campaign by Saevil of Halton, who despite the pandemic have not stopped this advocacy piece and continue to raise voice against this important issue. How do I advocate for people, Black, Indigenous people of color? And I do that by first and foremost educating myself on the issues that are of concern for people of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community. As a person of color myself, I know and I understand the responsibility that lies on my shoulder when it comes to the advocacy piece, and having some lived experiences where I too was felt that I don't exist and people were looking right through me when I was in a meeting situation. I understand how hard it is to exist as a person of color. So I do so by educating myself through one-on-one conversations, through literature, through dialogue, and I will continue to do so. Thank you again to Saevil of Halton for this opportunity, and I am proud to be an ally.
I'm Ruth Chun, and I'm the chair of Savis. Take Back the Night to me means creating a safe space where women supported by men can actually walk the streets at nighttime without fear for their safety. Because walking the streets at nighttime is unfortunately not automatically assumed to be safe. So to create that space and draw attention to the fact that safety is something that we need to create and support. Marginalization and sexual violence intersect. I think how the truth is accepted from certain bodies is something that's not consistent across everybody. So whether or not people are believed for what may have happened to them is informed by things like marginalized communities and where they come from, maybe their accent, their country of origin, or their race. So all of these things are definitely factors that come into play, and it's something that Saevil is acutely aware of and is working to dismantle and support. Ending sexual violence, I think, is a millennia-long pursuit. I think it is something that humans will have to deal with forever. I think minimizing it and creating an environment where gendered violence is something that we unpack, how we teach masculinity, femininity, sexuality, discrimination, all those things will help us with how we deal with one another. They say that whenever two or more people come together, there's always a power dynamic. So I think understanding the power dynamic with sexuality and aggression and violence are things that need to be understood while intersecting with things like race and origin and class and everything else. So I think it will take a lot of things, and it's not one faction or the other. It's everybody needs to understand how it works and come together. So I think Take Back the Night helps to raise awareness and questions. I have small children, young boys, and they ask, why do you have Take Back the Night? Or why do you even need to have this kind of event or this kind of a protest, if you will? So change making comes from questioning what's the norm. So if we question all streets are safe to walk all the time for all people, I think opening up those questions is where dialogue happens, and that's where change can happen. So that's where it means something to me. Saevil we've celebrated over 30 years now, and I think that work is unending. I think there's a lot of really important intersectional work that Saevil is doing, including the introduction of anti-human trafficking work and working with many members of the community. So I think we thank all of our partners because we support this work all together.
1 out of 3 women and 1 out of 6 men will experience some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. 80% of trans youth will experience sexual violence before they turn 18, and this just scratches the surface. We know that numbers aren't truly indicative of everyone's lived experiences and don't represent the experiences of women of color, Indigenous women, folks with disabilities, and members of the LGBTQ+ community. They face additional barriers reporting sexual violence and within the criminal justice system. COVID-19 has amplified sexual-based violence and created further retreat from survivors finding themselves unsafe at home. In fact, Statistics Canada reported 1 in 10 women said they were extremely concerned about the possibility of violence at home since the beginning of COVID-19. Since the onset of the pandemic, many domestic and sexual violence agencies in Canada were required to change their support and communications methods, leaving some survivors without or with reduced access to services such as shelters. In the wake of the pandemic's impact on our services, statistics from the Greater Toronto Area indicate 22% increase in occurrences of sexual and domestic violence since mid-March, and over 30% increase across Canada. Moreover, racialized communities, those living in poverty, and other groups that have traditionally been marginalized tend to be harmed by disaster more than others and have less access to helping resources. Women face similar protection risks, including sexual exploitation and abuse, unequal access to assistance, discrimination in aid, provision, and violence. As we take a moment to let these numbers sink in, I would like to turn our attention to the next guest. Saffron A is a musician and longstanding advocate for survivors of sexual violence. In this next video, we would want to share with you her powerful piece entitled Survivor. This song is for every survivor bravely stepping into their truth for the first time. I hear you, I see you, I believe you. Thank you, Saffron.
I've secret you buried, one that you carried alone. The secret you buried, one that you carried alone. There are no more secrets, you don't have to keep it alone. There are no more secrets, you don't have to keep it alone.
Advocating during COVID-19. The climate of COVID-19 has created a catalyst for online advocacy and activism, as demonstrated by the huge presence of the Black Lives Matter movement earlier this year. Moving forward through COVID-19, we can be encouraged by the power of social media to amplify our voices to spread awareness on gender-based violence. May we continue to spread our stories, retweet quotes, and push for social justice, equality, all from home. The step forward is right at our fingertips. You have the power to continue educating yourselves and others by positively engaging with other advocates, survivors, and folks online. Here are some other tangible ways to use your privilege to dismantle systems of oppression. Listen, be it on social media, face-to-face, or through an article. Listen to what people are saying. It is not about you, your feelings, and your opinions. Supporting survivors means stepping back and giving them the space to speak their truth. Get educated. It isn't up to those who are oppressed to educate others on the barriers they face. We have so much education and knowledge at our fingertips, so do some research of your own or partner with a local organization that is working to strengthen the voices of those who are marginalized. If they have opportunities to stay informed, they'll let you know. At Savis, we always welcome it when an ally wants to learn how to dismantle rape culture. We are all social citizens and have a part to play in ending sexual violence. Finally, donate. If possible, commit to financially supporting a local organization who is doing some justice work in your community. If you are not able to financially donate, you can also look at ways of volunteering your time. This past year, we've had volunteers contribute over 6,826 hours to support our survivors. These are important people and we appreciate their dedication. We also appreciate the time and dedication of our speakers this evening. You are all willing to stand up and speak out against violence in our communities, and that does not go unnoticed. Also, a huge thank you to Jarod Stark from Billet Media, who were the videographers behind this evening's event. Thank you. In this last video montage, I take great pride in introducing you to Saevil, Aboriginal Liaison with the Halton Catholic District School Board, and Valerie King, Indigenous Community Helper, members of Parliament Anita, Anand, and Pam Damoff, and Alecia Korkowski, representing United Way, Halton, and Hamilton. Following these speakers, we will welcome our Executive Director, Alma Arguello, who will lead us into a 1-minute candlelight vigil.
Well, I know a long time ago when I was a student still in university, I took my young daughter to a Take Back the Night event. And my young daughter was only maybe 5 or 6 at the time. And I never, ever, ever want my children, my daughters, to ever feel afraid that they cannot walk at night by themselves without either being kidnapped, heckled, assaulted. So really, what Take Back the Night is, it is that solidarity movement, right? Of being outside, of women being outside, taking back the night. This year is going to be different. It'll be a virtual. However, there's thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women that have gone missing. And that's, again, how important Take Back the Night is that, again, thousands of women shouldn't be going missing because of whatever society, whatever society is placed upon our men to think that our men are able to take us whenever they choose. So again, I think Take Back the Night leading up to our event on October 4th for the Missing and Murdered Sisters in Vigil Spirit is really, really important because we are talking about women, that women should be able to feel safe, comfortable, and secure in their own communities.
Even today in courts, when court happens and they talk about Indigenous women, we're garbage, we're mindless, we're not a human. And, sterilization happened without consent, and it's still happening. It's still happening. Sterilization, because we are not good enough for society, seen as good enough, so then they sterilized a lot of our women. And there was no knowing about that, and nobody's talking about that either. So, take back the night. I'm glad that other races of women are doing that, because they're just as affected by this in their own cultures. But our women, Indigenous women, were known to be the leads within our household, and were spiritual, and the men would go to them for direction, and that's what we're taking back. We're taking back that. We're taking back that power. If you look at the inquiry, that's what it's talked about, taking our place, taking our power back. So that's all I really have to say about that, and I'm really glad that we're all the women are coming together, and the men that are coming together to support them, and organizations. So, miigwech.
Hi, my name is Anita, Anand, the Member of Parliament for Oakville. Prior to being elected last fall, I was a law professor for 22 years. During my professional life in academia, I came to realize the harassment and sexual harassment that women face each and every day within and outside the workplace. Now, as a Member of Parliament, I believe that this cause is important for me as a woman to continue to fight for. And on this day, I stand with you and all women in the fight for respect and equality and a life free from violence, regardless of skin color or sexual orientation.
Hi, I'm Pam Damoff, the Member of Parliament for Oakville North Burlington. Normally at Take Back the Night, we'd be on the street, candles in hand, taking back the night for our sisters here in Halton. This year we have to do it virtually, but that doesn't mean that the need to end sexual assault and gender-based violence doesn't exist. In fact, since the pandemic started, it's probably even more important that we're being aware of gender-based violence and putting an end to it. This year, it's different in many ways. It's not only different because we're doing this celebration virtually, it's also different because our awareness of the tremendous challenges faced by Black women, by Indigenous women, by folks of color in our country it's come to the forefront. We recognize that Indigenous women are going missing and murdered and ending up in our correctional facilities through no fault of their own, and we must do more. So this year on Take Back the Night 2020, let's all make a commitment that we will truly take back the night, and hopefully at some point we can stop holding these events. We will actually have made it safe for all women to be able to take to the streets at any time of day, but especially at night. So thanks to the organizers for doing this year. It's so incredibly important. I'm with you in video, if not in person, and let's continue to work together. We have great partners here in Halton that are doing work that's recognized by the entire country. So thank you to those folks in Halton that are really making a difference and truly taking back the night.
Greetings. My name is Alecia, and I work for United Way, Halton and Hamilton. Every year we gather with our sisters, friends, and families to take back the night. Though we are not gathering in person this year, we still march, chant, sing, create, and fight for those who have survived gender-based violence, and for those who have felt immeasurable pain through no fault of their own. Because we live in a society that has historically been violent to women, trans, and non-binary people, we at United Way are supporting services for survivors, including counseling, advocacy, and education to prevent further discrimination and oppression. Nobody should experience violence based on their body, gender, and expression. So we stand in solidarity with you and with the Take Back the Night movement. This is our message to community, and this is what United Way stands for.
Take Back the Night is important for all the women, not just for one particular group of women. And I think this year, and what we're trying to do this year with our Take Back the Night, is to actually illustrate all of our sisters all across the Americas and the impact of colonization that has had in all of our women.
In the videos throughout the evening, you've noticed in how especially one of the songs that depicts the Mexican movement that also are demanding for the missing and murdered Indigenous women and women. Through the Chilean March for Take Back the Night and Women's March is unprecedented in the fact that that has never happened in Latin America. And now we're moving into Canada in the way that we're still struggling and demanding for our sisters to have the right to live, for our sisters to get justice. We're still demanding for end to rape, end to sexual violence, end to exploitation, end to our women being murdered, end to our women being missing, end to our murder not getting the justice. Throughout COVID, we also noticed the increase in femicide that happened to our women, to our sisters. And it did not just happen to white women, it happened to our Indigenous sisters, it happened to our Black sisters, it happened to our brown sisters, it happened to all of us. And how the Take Back the Night, I want this year to be impactful because it has outlined how it's so important, and this is a true call, and all of our voices being united, pretty much saying this needs to stop, and acknowledging tonight how important it is for our women to have a voice. In one of the songs, it says, they rooted us with fear, and yet we grew wings. And that's what Take Back the Night means to me, is the fact that now we have our voices. And all of our sisters, not just in Canada or in Oakville or in Halton, or it's all of us are amplifying, saying femicide, sexual assault, exploitation, and missing and murder also happens in Oakville, also happens in Georgetown, also happens all over our region, all over our province, all over our nation, and all over our continent. I'm supposed to call out to everybody and say, light a candle. The candle that we are hoping to light today, and the candle that we'll be lighting today, is a representative of a life. It's a representative of a change. And as I call out, if you are at home, if you could light a little candle, and it's a form of all of us having that little vigil in our own space. I would like to thank everybody for being here today. I'd like to thank everybody for being here, for amplifying the voices of all of our women, for acknowledging that sexual violence does happen here in Halton, and that as a community, it's up to us to acknowledge and to have a solution and to work towards a solution. Thank you.
We will now take a moment of silence. We thank you all for being able to share this evening with us. As we leave you this evening, we will be sharing a video entitled Cancion Sin Miedo, or the Fearless Song. It is a tribute to a survivor's resilience and strength. It also reminds us that we may have been taught to fear walking alone at night, but in moments like these, we show strength and determination to change that narrative. Again, thank you for this evening, and during the song, please feel free to listen and sign off in your own time. Tonight we shatter the silence and we strive for victory over violence. Tonight we take back the night.
Que caiga con fuerza el feminicida.